Dear God, I am ready for your help in removing from me the defects of character, which I now realize are an obstacle to my recovery. Help me to continue being honest with myself and guide me towards spiritual and mental health. It is with much love and gratitude that the group welcomes Paula to come and share with us. Paula, over to you.
Thank you so much. Hey, everybody. I'm Paula Parton. I'm an alcoholic and an addict. I love when I get to say both things. It feels like I'm really home then. I'm glad to be here. Pretty, I don't know how long ago you asked me, but it's been on my calendar for a long time. Thank you for that. I've been looking forward to this. And it's so nice to see some familiar faces and nice to meet some new friends too. My sobriety and clean date is October 29th, 1979. I took my first drink when I was 14 years old, quickly met its cousins. That didn't make me throw up all night long, and had my last anything was when I was 17 years old, and which was an overdose. And 2 days later is when I count my sobriety date of October 29th, 1979. And I'm a little girl who shouldn't have made it. Girls like me don't make it, have successful lives, have friends, and have orthodontists for their children who know that I'll pay them on time. These things don't happen. Girls like me, I'm a juvenile delinquent girl. There's only a few ways girls like me end up coming from homes I came from. And to be here, I mean, it's a shock. Shocks me every day. I am telling you, I have 45 years of sobriety, and I am telling you, one of the facts is this. Every day, I feel like every day God is throwing me a surprise party, and every day I am still surprised. That's how it goes. But I'm here to talk to you about step 6 and 7. And so in a weird way, I'm going to take exactly a half step back, because no step exists all on its own. And I say a half step because there's this weird little part in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous that's not step 5 and it's not step 6 and it's on step 75, and it's just a quick little thing, and I'm just going to check it out for you right here. It says this: returning home, meaning after we've read our 5th step, returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for an hour, carefully reviewing what we have done, meaning our 5th, 4th, and 5th step. We thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know him better. Taking this book down from our shelf, we turn to the page which contains the 12 steps, carefully reading the first 5 proposals, they mean in this case steps. We ask if we have omitted anything, for we are building an arch through which we shall walk a free person at last. Is our work solid so far? Are the stones properly in place? Have we skimped on the cement put into the foundation? Have we tried to make mortar without sand? If we can answer to our satisfaction, we can then look at step 6. And as you all know, in the big book, they're so small, 6 and 7. These are the steps, however, that I call the grow the hell up steps. In the 12 by 12, it says, as you all know, this is the step at step 6 that separates the men from the boys. But, so, and also, in step 7, I think in the 12 by 12, is it 6 or 7, but it says, there's only one step we do perfectly, and that's the first step. We perfectly don't take a drink one day at a time. But I gotta say, I'm gonna disagree with that. Because if we've done a 4th and 5th step, we wrote our defects, we've done that 4th column where we stood up from the prosecution table of the first 3 columns of our grudge list, got up in that court of law, stepped over to the defense table in that 4th column, sat down at the defense table, turned, looked at ourselves, and began the defense of the very same people we had just got done prosecuting. Come through the fear inventory, the sex inventory. Then we are, when we look at step 6 and then 7, perfectly willing to have God remove this mess that has been in the way, man. And why it's so important to take that hour is because we're human, man. I mean, there's this amazing speaker. Everybody knows, I'm not going to say her name in case it's inappropriate, but she's so cool. And she talks about how we actually are 4th dimension creatures. Rock on, sister. Not me. I'm a No, I'm in the third dimension trying to keep my glimpse of the fourth, but why I need the hours, because I always skimp, not on purpose, but especially when I was new, man, like I'd hear these horror stories and I think I could never tell that until I hear you say it. It's shoulder to shoulder, eyeball to eyeball, man. The sacred 6 and 7 is actually the moment between God and the person only. It's a sacred moment. C.S. Lewis even summed it up. What he said was like this, that God never loves us more than when we stand on a mountaintop from which every trace of him seems to have vanished. Ask why we have been forsaken and still obey. That's why this is the grow the hell up step. Here is the place. Here is the place where the entire question of my life changed. The question was, and into my sobriety, remember third dimension still, the question of my whole drinking and my sobriety into a long time and can be still. You give me enough days not treating the disease that lives in me. You give me enough days not meditating, not praying, thinking somebody else is wrong, which always means I'm right and always feels so good. So I say yes to the being right instead of yes to the God that saved my life. The question was always this. What about me? And in this step, in this work, it changes the whole question to this. How can I help? I don't know why the magic happens here. See, if I got to make up my mind, it would happen somewhere between 2 and 3, maybe even somewhere between 1 and 2, because at 1, we gave up the only God we had ever known. The only God that seemed with all evidence to finally work for us until all evidence showed us that it did not, that liquid demon. And then at that sacred place, that terrifying dark place between step 1 and between step 2, you tricked me and said, now that's gone. Now we got another idea for you. You'd think there the magic would really happen, but it's just still working, man. It's still working. And you were the light of my life, because you were ahead of me saying, come on, man, it worked for me. Come on, man, it worked for me. And I could see you shine. I could see you shine in the 23 hours of the life that you lived outside the hour of the meeting where you talked so good, where you quoted that book so good. Because I wasn't watching you in that hour. I was watching how you lived, what you said. Because I was one of those weirdos in the back of the room, man. I came to you scarred, broken, and I have outside issues to this day. I'm 62 years old. I still have an anxiety disorder where I tick to this day. Oh, well, I have green eyes, fake blonde hair, and tics. So what? I'm still showing up to the front line, man. I'm a frontline soldier. I'm not a captain in this service work. I am not a good authority figure in the service work of life. I'm good on the front line. I can get to the wounded fast, get back in my position. I show up for duty. And sometimes I have another outside issue. This isn't a story about outside issues. I'm just saying if that's something you have too, man, it does not impede and it can help, man. And I don't know if this is going to make sense to you. I don't know if I've ever said it in a talk. I don't think I ever have, but here we go. I prayed. What happens, happens. I have a darkness that I don't control. It decides its intensity. It decides when it comes and when it goes. It is not chronic. It is acute. Medically, meditation is the prescribed answer for it. Alcoholics Anonymous has taught me skills and ways to keep trudging through it till it passes. It rarely descends anymore, but if you have a dark doom that comes, then you know what I'm talking about. So I want to tell you that there were words that would come to me not wanting to live far into my sobriety that I could not tell you because I must be different. There must be something particularly broken about me, particularly wrong about me that I didn't see wrong with other people. So I'll just keep that one to the side and hope it doesn't take me out. And at the worst of the darkness, the worst of it, the words to sum up the very worst of it were this: you are alone. And because I had gone that far down, it seemed like all evidence supported that. And it rarely came anymore, but when I was 30 years sober, you guys, I had already started talking about it for more than a decade, had already started seeking all kind of beautiful help. And it rarely came anymore, but something happened in my life where what I think to this point, 15 years after it happened, was my very last addiction, and that was the need for others' approval. I didn't even know it was my shtick. 30 years sober. And it was what drove me. I didn't even know. Till I had to stand up for the vulnerable women in my AA meetings that were being allowed to be fodder for predator men. And men who had called me sister now were calling me other names. And I was in danger, and I had to stand the ground. And I lost all approval. And I had to face that. And those words came in my bedroom, which is right above my ceiling in the office I'm in now. You are alone. And in deep prayer, with the support of my sisters and sponsor, but they lived 1,000 to 2 miles away, with the support of the General Service Office, as a matter of fact, with support, but I was physically alone, facing that final addiction of needing, and it was now I had no approval, and I was afraid, physically afraid, and had been threatened and assaulted by the scariest and biggest of the men. I had to face those words, you are alone. And I was in deep meditation for days and days, deep prayer and pain at the same time. It is, please don't buy into the lie that if you have faith, you won't be afraid. That's a crap. The bravest people are afraid and act still, man. The bravest people are terrified, shaking, quaking, and do the right thing anyway. That's some badassery there. So here is what God did for me with 6 and 7. Here's what happened in the deepest dark, the worst time, 30 years sober, of my whole sobriety. Those words, you are alone, turned to this upon reflection. It became exactly this. I'm alone. Glad it's me. Glad it's me I'm alone with. Next. Swear to God, and it completely healed. The doom has not come for me again. And thank God I faced the darkness. 6 and 7, ooh, man, can it go wrong. But that's because you're looking at these things, man, this hardest time. That's why we got a 2 and a 3, man, to grab onto the power. That's why we have finally stepped into the sunlight with a capital S, because we need that light. We need the light. Even if we cannot feel it at 6 and 7, we at least have the remembrance of it. And when I forget, all step 3 was made a decision. All I have to do is say, oh, I already decided who's in charge. Moving on. God invented time. I always forget that. I think I'm willing to let it go. Hello? Come on. Hello? There's jealousy again? Are you kidding me? I wanted it gone. Didn't you get my report? You know? God's in charge of time. My very best example of this, of that whole thing, like I think a defect should be gone, I think a woundedness should be healed, is this. So I grew up in an alcoholic home. Doesn't make me alcoholic. I'm just saying that was the way, whatever, my life was. But one of the things about being a little girl in my mom's alcoholic home is, I'd be a little girl and I'd be like at a chorus. I'd be in a little singing thing at school and no one would be there to watch me, or I'd be like playing volleyball and, no one would be there to see my game. It sounds, I wish I could find a less pathetic way to say it. I'm just saying that's the thing. But I do remember learning not to look up and look for her, because it was worse if people saw that I noticed than to just pretend like no big deal. I remember that. And so just a few years ago, in the town I live in is a huge group home facility for kids who've been taken away from their parents because their parents are not doing the right thing by those kids. And I have a sponsee who was sponsoring a 16-year-old who lived in these group homes. And my sponsee came up to me and she said that my grand sponsee, the 16-year-old, was going to be in a band performance at her high school in our town. I said, we're going. She said, we are. I said, yes, we're going to be late. Get in the car. And so we're racing to be there. And I'm going to tell you, that was probably 10 years ago. I was 35 years sober. And until that second of my life, I did not remember the damage of my mom's drinking. It had never shown up on a 4-step, never in a conversation. God kept it back until God required me to remember it for that 16-year-old girl. Because God is the magic, algebraic, physicist, chemical genius of the universe. God will take our dark past at the time that the creator of time determines it is the most helpful, usually not even for us, because that ain't even the point. Apply it to the person who needs it the most. So we're racing across town because I know, who would know but me, for in my little tiny town, what it would mean for that 16-year-old girl who is all alone. Who would know but me? And so we get to the school and we go in what we think are the right doors, and they're the wrong doors. And we're at the risers, and we can see the back of my little grand sponsee way down on the gym room floor. And there's no way she's going to see us. And there's like 50 huge grown-ups in our way. But if we can get through them to the other end of the risers, and we can get her to look up at us, she'll see us, man. And she'll know. And look at that math. Look at that math. Look what God did, man. Just when it was needed, God brought it down from the shelf. And so we're looking at these 50 huge people, and we're almost going to be late. And my sponsee says, do you think we can make it? I said, hold my latte. And I'm like pushing these people aside, and I'm saying, I'm sorry, but I am not sorry. Pushing them aside, and I get to the end, and the conductor had already picked up his baton, and I yelled out, and I don't care, I yelled out her name, and she looked up, and she saw us, and her face healed any part of me I didn't even know was still cracked. That is what God does in 6 and 7 when we don't even yet know the name of what requires healing. We don't even know it's there. We hold it up to the sunlight, again, capital S, of the Spirit, capital S, or call it a small s. Rock on whatever you need to do. Rock on, man. Do you. Rock on. If you got a God that needs to test you, sorry for that. Hope you don't. But, whatever you need to do. You got a God that finds you parking places. I had a God like that for a while. It's pretty handy. I don't have one like that anymore. Tomorrow I might again. It's supposed to change. Six and 7. They say, this is not the place where they say, well, we turn out and look to see what we can do for our fellow man. But this is the freaking beginning of it, man. Because how else can we do for others unless we are clean, unless our motives are finally seen, that shystery stuff, you know what I mean? And it happens on the daily basis. We just don't do 6 and 7 and go on 8, 9. You know what I mean? 6 and 7 keeps on happening. I mean, if we don't know the names, we do the names in 4, you know, do we say them out loud in 5? And there's no such thing as a vacuum. We got to have another name for what we want God to replace it with, or we let God give us the words. What would God have me be? I travel a lot. There's airports that I'm in a lot, and there's some airports that I kind of enjoy being in. There's some I hate being in. Dallas is one of them. I don't like it at all. So what do I do with that? I don't go, God, it's Dallas. What I say is, how can I help? I know God is going to show me something or somehow to help in this damn airport today. And I am telling you, almost every single time I have been able to help somebody in that airport that I cannot stand. It's a confusing airport, and there's a lot of people. It's an international airport, and it's very confusing. If you don't look up, you're not going to know. You got to go up to get anywhere. And I know that a confused look, so I always go up and say, hey, can I help you? And I usually have a long layover there, so I walk. I take them all the way on the tram to the gate. But beautiful things happen out of this too, and I don't even expect that. I come from a wrestling family. My father-in-law was in the Wrestling Hall of Fame. He was an Olympic class wrestler, a beautiful man, amazing man, and so he has the ring from the Wrestling Hall of Fame in the United States. And there was this little old man who had that confused look, and at Dallas, I walked up to him and I said, can I help you? And, you know, he can't figure it out. And I said, hey, just hand me your boarding pass. And so he was way in the wrong place. So I noticed he had that ring, another of the Wrestling Hall of Fame ring. I said, oh, my father-in-law has one of those. And he told me his name and the years that he wrestled, and an Olympic wrestler for the United States, actually, and a world record holder. But I didn't know his name. I'm not like that much of a wrestling mom that, you know, I would know names of people. So I said, can I take a picture of you? So we took a picture, but I got him to his gate. I sat with him. I you know, whatever. And I just helped him find his gate, and, did my trip, came home, and I told my husband and father-in-law, and they're like freaking out. Like, I couldn't have run into a more famous wrestler than this guy. Another time I was in Durango, Colorado, this tiny little mountain town, and, my friend had not made her flight, so it was going to be 10 hours. I was going to be stuck in that town, which at that time there was no such thing as Uber. There was no taxis in that tiny little town. How about that? And I'm stuck in the tiny little airport 10 hours till she gets in. So there was no rental cars because apparently something amazing was going on. Everybody had a rental car. And I noticed this little old man and his wife. He had a Vietnam veteran's hat on. And he was in the rental car line, and the rental car people were trying to upgrade him, you know, trying to take advantage of him. So I stepped in. I said, hold on, here's what they're saying, and da-da-da. And so they got the rental car that they really wanted. And they turned to me, and they said, can we give you a ride into town? And I said, sure. I mean, it's better to, you know, be in town than at the airport. And so I'm a historian. I have my graduate degree in medieval British history and World War II, which, you know, don't do that. No job. You'll be great at Trivial Pursuit. That's it. But anyway, so I'm riding with this cool old guy, and so here's who he was. So there's this iconic picture of the last day of the Vietnam War, and it's a helicopter on top of the American embassy in Saigon, where the last American soldiers are being put on there to escape. The very last helicopter. He is the last man getting on that helicopter. I mean, these are the things that happen. Just because I say, okay, reporting for duty, I'm clean and light, the sun is shining, because I did my 6 and 7, because I continue to know what my defects of character are. I want to say just a few more things. So this step talks about instincts too. The hardest defects to let go of are when our instincts are attached to them. And I don't have a harder, bigger, stronger, more foundational instinct than my instinct to protect my children. And if you know me at all, You know that my 2 older boys have been on the journey of alcoholism for more than a decade. And all that. And before the last 10 years, when they were at it, I tried to control it with guilt, with money. It's insane to think I had a long time sobriety then. I did all the wrong things, ridiculous things. In my terror, in my fear that I could control it, that somehow them being raised around a house full of nothing but laughing or crying AA women would protect them, that me being an AA would protect them, like somehow a mother's love is more powerful than alcoholism. It is not. And then about 10 years ago, someone in Al-Anon said to me, about letting this go, because I cannot burn the bridge. I will not burn the bridge. If that moment of desperation and willingness reaches them and they want to pick up the phone, it will not be me to have burned the bridge, to help for them. And I said, but they could die. What if they die? And she said, if they die, then you will plan their funeral. That's what good mothers do too. And something about that, and another inventory on my fear, and another 6 and 7 to let go of my instinct, because I thought there was one way this could come out, dead or sober. And that's not true. That I had been seeking to control the outcome even. That I had thought what I had thought I was doing by already crying about the worst thing that could happen. That I was paying forward on the pain. That then if the worst happened and I lost my sons to alcoholism, I would have already paid part of the price in pain and it would not take me to. And what would God have me be? Alive. That's what God would have me be, to not waste the precious moments. And now my oldest son just celebrated a year of sobriety. And here's the other thing that changed. One time I was talking on Zoom and my friend Marty J heard me, and that maybe this was probably 5 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever. And I said, alcoholism is a disease, like all the diseases. Diseases, if you have a disease, it's doing one of two things. You are dying of the disease, or you are recovering from the disease. And I am here to say my sons are dying of alcoholism. And I got done with my talk and my phone rang, and it was Marty, and his voice was raised. And people don't yell at me. I'm like, oh, Marty's yelling. I guess I need to pay attention. He said, you stop saying your sons are dying. Words have energy. Words have weight. You stop saying that. So, okay. So I went into meditation. I looked at my defects again, lifted it up to God and waited for the words, for the light to shine. And the new words became this, that God is going to save my sons, but please hear this. Do I think that God is going to save my sons through some great spiritual practice I do or some worthy thing? Hell no. That's not how life works. Life is in session, man, and human will is in session. Beautiful people have lost their children. More worthy people than me. Their children have paid the ultimate price. But so here are the words that I started to say, that God will save my sons, and I do not know the definition of save. So I was able to turn away and turn up to the spirit of the universe and to see where let God could do that. When Bill wrote this, I had a sponsor, she gave him this cool book. It was the Big Book Dictionary. It's the actual dictionary definitions of words that Bill Wilson used when he wrote the Big Book. So here's humility, as it was in the dictionary at the time Bill wrote the Big Book. So humility, being humble, the absence of self-pride, self-will, or self-assertion. Humbled, thought less of, reduced in self-pride, reduced in arrogance, reduced in assertiveness, made humble in spirit or manner. Humble, having or showing feelings of humility rather than of pride or arrogance. Always I think this defect needs to be removed now, preferably, and here's how that should work and look. That's so arrogant. God knows what and how and when. Our book over and over says what humility is. Step 7 in the 12 by 12 talks about it really well, about what to do. As long as we placed self-reliance first, a genuine reliance upon a higher power was out of the question. That basic ingredient of all humility, a desire to seek and do God's will, was missing. And then it goes on, so it is that we see humility as a necessity, but this is the barest beginning. To get completely away from our aversion to the idea of being humble, to gain a vision of humility as the avenue to true freedom of the human spirit, to be willing to work for humility as something to be desired for itself, takes most of us a long, long time. Yes, long, and then for me, another one, long time. But that's useful too, man. Like I have my sponsees are spread all over. So every Sunday night we have what we call our posse meeting on Zoom, and we are shoulder to shoulder. That's how we are. I seek, wisdom from them too. And I can't remember what it was I was working through, but I didn't have a beautiful bow tie of spiritual wisdom on the end of the current life lesson I was working to. And I said to them, here's what happened yesterday. I don't have a beautiful lesson at the end of this. You are watching me walk through this in real time. And then all of a sudden, 2 others who weren't going to share a secret opened up and started sharing it. Man, nobody likes me for my perfection. Promise you that. What they're attracted to, and in you too, man. Remember the story of Dr. Silkworth and Bill. Bill was going out, man, he was knocking people over the head with, here's what you should do. You have to believe in a God. Here's the way out. But nobody was getting help. And Silkworth said, just tell him your story, man. Just do that. That's what we call shoulder to shoulder, eyeball to eyeball, walking hand in hand. No one is better. Years don't matter. Days matter. We are together. It's why we say the newcomer's the most important person, man, because we need to be of service or we die. I only have a few more minutes. When I came to you, I had an organ of rage. I could feel the rage in me for my mom and her drinking and the men she had let in our home and what she had allowed them to do. And always my thing in sobriety, and as I was coming through the juvenile justice system, is, if what had been done to me had been done to you, you'd fight too, you'd rage too. Don't tell me to just get over it. You say that word just one more time, as a matter of fact, we'll be going outside to take care of your little just problem. But you had told me there was a path to freedom. You had promised me. And because you were honorable in how you lived the other 23 hours of your life, because you didn't make me feel some kind of creepy way, like it had happened in every institution I'd ever lived in, including my own home, I could believe that you believed. I could believe that there was at least some path, and maybe that sacred maybe, even for me. Even that organ of hate and rage could go. And it did go. But it would come back. And I was a single parent with about 17, 18 years of sobriety, and it came back. And I was ashamed to tell people in AA, how can you have 17, 18 years of sobriety and be screaming at night? But I don't keep secrets anymore because secrets kill. So I began the journey with that, and I was attacking it with 4 steps, with 10 steps too, trying to get the source, because I got sober feet, man. I want an answer. And I realized what I was doing was trying to control it again. I was trying to manage the defect, telling God when it should go. I'm doing all my work like a good little princess. It wasn't that. I had to go back to step 1 because it is unmanageable for me. I had to remember who was the power with a capital P of all things, even that which I thought, no way could God remove this, and God has. And God has. And that is something people in AA don't talk about enough, because I can't tell you how many heads were just nodding just now. All I have is my experience, man. If I don't share it, we're all doomed, right? I have a story, I'm not going to tell it, but there's a guy with 32 years of sobriety, an amazing man. Moses, amazing man. But he kept a secret that killed him. He started drinking when he was 32 years sober. He was dead in a year. And it was his secret that killed him. And just think of all the people he could have helped. Just think of the wasted grace, man. Do not waste your pain. Turn it through this work, this logical work of 6 and 7. It just makes sense. It's not even mystical. It's just logical work. The 12 steps are a formula. That's all they are. Or if you're a cook, call it a recipe. You can't have a chocolate cake without flour. You know what I mean? You can't have the outcome of a spiritual experience unless you take every part of the steps. And step 6 is a beautiful exercise to learn, because you're going to have to do 10, 11, and 12 the rest of your life. And it's not just to maintain, man. Who wants to just maintain? I want to grow and grow and grow and grow. I want more, man. No, I hope to God it doesn't stop here. There's no way it's going to stop here. I want to be in the sunlight at last. Because sunlight is the best disinfectant. I'll just say a couple more things and I'll be quiet. I had a huge defect with money, which again, my will, I thought God can't fix this one. Every time I think that God can't fix this one, God can't fix it. God has nothing to do with money. God has everything to do with money. Because my mom and all my brothers and sisters and I were very poor, like grungy poor. But my father was famous and rich. So money to me meant some messed up stuff. And I had a lot of work to do with that. I mean, I had daddy issues, with it. I had money equals love issues. I had grasping greed. I had need it. I had manipulation issues. I had you can't be happy unless you have it. Dropping my dad's name as I was a grown-ass woman. Grow the hell up. Stop it. I had all kind of stuff. And the biggest piece where I got freedom, because I wanted freedom, but God's in charge of time. I did the step work over and over. We don't just do one inventory. Please don't think you do, because you're not the same person that you were a year ago or next year, please. This is what happened. So I was about 18 or 19 years sober. My oldest son was 5 years old. And I had been a single parent for a while, and I made a lot of money. I was in commission sales, and I was really good at it. And my father, who money was his God, no shade. I'm glad he had something that made him feel better. He came from a horribly abusive childhood, and he didn't get the 12 steps. So no shade. He's not here to defend himself. We're moving on past that. But anyway, he loved that I made so much money. He was, anyway, he liked that. And I met my husband, St. Richard. We've been together 28 years. And he didn't make hardly any money. But I had raised my children, just dumping them off in daycare so I could go to work and make the money. And I hated that. If you're a mama, I hated it. So Rick and I figured out a way that I could quit my job that paid over $100,000 a year, and we could live on his $24,000 a year. And by that time, we'd had a third son. So 3 kids and 2 adults in a house. And we figured out a way that I could finally stay home with my babies. And my father was so mad. You're giving up $100,000 a year. I didn't put you in college for that. And I'm like, doing it. Thanks. So my oldest son has a mental health disorder too. He's the one that has the year of sobriety now, and he's 32 years old. But he has a pretty marked anxiety disorder, and it was beginning. You could see it when he was 5 years old. And he'd always had to, after school, he couldn't go to the playground and play with all the other kids whose mom was at the flagpole after school. He had to go on the daycare bus and go away and have to stay at daycare till I could pick him up 3 hours later. And he hated it, but that was life in a single parent household. And so the first day I was going to get to meet him at the flagpole like all the other mothers. I said, honey, I'm going to be at the flagpole today. Finally, I'm going to be one of the moms there. You get to go play after school. So I'm there after school and I'm so excited, and the door opens and you know how that would look. All the kids go running out and I'm there with all the other moms and I'm so excited, and the whole school empties and my son hasn't come out yet. And finally he comes out and he stops still on the school, at the top of the school steps, and he's scanning and his eyes see me, and he breaks out in this huge smile and he runs past me and goes plays with all his friends on the playground. And I thought that was worth $100,000 and I was free. Because let me tell you, the goal, the whole mantra of recovery, you'll never find it in AA literature. It's this: you never know, man. That's not anywhere in the literature. We do the work. We hold it up to the sunlight of the Spirit. We pay the price in pain and humility, always knowing, even if it doesn't feel like it, that God's in charge. God's in charge. Even though I have to remind myself of it, even though I look round upon a universe from it seems every trace of Him has vanished, I remind myself He's done it before. He'll do it again. How can I help? I'm going to say one more thing and I'll be quiet. If you've heard my story, I usually always say about that time when I was 4 years sober, and my sister and I were in my crappy college car. We had my little baby niece, and we were in the middle of Iowa. Oh my God, which means the middle of nowhere. And it was one day before Christmas Eve, and there were no lights, no houses, no highway signs, no nothing. And my car died. It was 0 degrees temperature outside, and we were in danger. And that farmer came along, and he fixed my engine with duct tape and a wire coat hanger. I mean, he came he found us on a dirt road. And what he said, we tried to pay him, and he said, take it as a present from him. Well, the part of that story I never tell is this, because I never have time. Why my car died right there at that weird dirt road that he happened to find us on. 1 mile up, 1 mile back, he wouldn't have found us. 0 degree temperature with no engine running. Likelihood we would not have survived it. Why we were right there where he could find us is because 10 hours before that, when we'd been on the interstate, a young woman had flipped her whole car over. And my sister and I stopped for her and waited with her a long, long time and gave her money and got help for her and got her on the road to help. And it took exactly as long as it took that 10 hours later, we were at exactly the place when my engine died. That story is exactly what 6 and 7 will do. We do not know the gift that will come. We do not know what it will look like, but it is often for the very lives of other people. It looks like freedom to us, and it is, but it is also life-saving measures. Thank you.
So much, Paula. Thank you. Thank you for your share. You were heard. Appreciate you. Grateful you're here. So take a moment. My Creator, I'm now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you, my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. I'd now like to hand back to Paula to take us out with a prayer or a reading of your choice, please.
Okay, I am going to take us out with the 11-step prayer, which people call the St. Francis prayer, because I always thought this should be in the 7th step. But anyway, it's in the 11th step. Here we go. It's in the 12 by 12 on page 99. Lord, make me a channel of thy peace, that where there is hatred, I may bring love, That where there is wrong, I may bring the spirit of forgiveness. That where there is discord, I may bring harmony. That where there is error, I may bring truth. That where there is doubt, I may bring faith. That where there is despair, I may bring hope. That where there are shadows, I may bring light. That where there is sadness, I may bring joy. Lord, grant that I may seek rather to comfort than to be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved. For it is by self-forgetting that one finds, it is by forgiving that one is forgiven, it is by dying that one awakens to eternal life. Amen.